Hi, I'm Reza. I'm here to talk about recording loud guitars. What does that actually mean, loud guitars? I think when we talk about loud guitars, we'll be talking about heavy, distorted guitars. Um, Now, in reality, it could sound huge on the recording, loud and full. That doesn't necessarily mean you have to turn your amp up loud to get that loud sound. Actually, in most recording scenarios, I'd recommend uh, getting that tone in the most simple way possible. Actually, unless you're doing an album or maybe an EP or a really serious recording, I'd recommend starting off by using actually just guitar plugins. Um, Depending on your software, either RTAS or VST plugins to begin with. If you don't have a copy of Amplitude or Guitar Rig or something like Positive Grid Bias, there are a whole bunch of free plugins that you can get. If you just do a bit of a YouTube search, you'll find a bunch of people demoing some free plugins like the Lapoo plugins. Other ones, but you have to actually make sure that you have a good impulse response when it comes to cabs. So an impulse response is actually someone that has captured the details of their guitar cabinet within the digital realm. So it's a digital simulation of a cabinet. And actually, when it comes to capturing guitar tones, your cabinet and your speaker and your microphone are going to be probably some of the most important aspects of your tone. And they're often overlooked. People will think about getting the right guitar, pickups, head, strings, whatnot. But that's all relevant. That's all very important as well. But your cabinet, your speaker, and your mic placement are crucial as well. So, okay, what would I do? Personally, I tend to like things like this. My faithful pod, which I've used for years, Line 6 Pod XT, and it's fantastic for guitar recordings because it's very quick, very simple, easy to get a great tone. I've used this on EPs, albums, in many, many different contexts. You need a good space, a good microphone, just a really great signal chain in order to capture a good guitar tone. Now, recording loud guitars, if you're going to do it with an amplifier, I'd suggest going about the most simple way possible, okay? So the first thing you want to do is dial in a guitar tone with your head. Now, this is an old Marshall, and I'm using the Vox saturator up here for the source of distortion. So what I'm aiming to do is to get the amplifier to a level where the speaker is starting to compress properly. So by that I mean your speaker is saturated at the right point. It's moving the right amount of air. And just to the point where your cabinet, you're getting a little bit of resonance from your guitar cab as well. Okay? So you're introducing a bit of the tone of the speaker and the cabinet into the mix. Now, close miking is where I begin. This is a Sennheiser E609. It's a dynamic mic. It's one of my favorite microphones. And a good starting point for miking up the speaker, in my opinion, is on the edge of the dust cap. So you'll see a little round dust cap here. If you place the center of the mic on the edge of the dust cap, that's a really good starting point because it gives you a balance between the high and the low frequencies. As you move the microphone out to the edge of the speaker, you're going to get a sort of a smoother, more dull tone. Whereas if you get it towards the center, you're going to get a much brighter tone. Okay? So, another tip is to move the microphone right up close and then back it off a little bit until you find a sweet spot, okay? Where it's getting its maximum sort of fatness. with the air, it's a point in which the air is moving the right way, and you're capturing the air in the right sort of way. Yeah, so that's my tips on recording loud guitars. Another tip that I would throw in there is, if you do reamp, that is, if you record the dry guitar signal into your audio interface on its own, is if you want to sort of get a slightly cleaner tone, is you can actually mix that dry guitar signal with your distorted signal as well. Sort of blend it in a little bit, and it will actually give you a little bit more clarity. Some other tips I can also give you is be very, very careful about where you put the bass on your head, or how bassy your guitar head is, or your tone is, because you don't want it to interfere with the bass player's region of tone too much. It's going to sort of muddy it up a little bit if it gets too bassy. And also try and use the right amount of gain, or I'm hesitant to say as little gain as possible, as little distortion as possible, because as you introduce the microphone into the equation and the speaker into the equation, that's going to add extra layers of distortion to your tone as well. Okay, so there's some tips on recording loud guitars.